Before this video begins, I want to let you know that all this information on this channel is related to Code Closer's server, which is a private server. Some details stated may not be what's in the other servers, so please keep that in mind. It's about time I create the next part for gearing up. If you're new to the game, it's best to look back at the other guides. Some parts may be outdated, but it's still helpful. From before, I created a video related to Asmodeus version 1. I stated things about unlocking the raid. If you're not sure on how to unlock the raid and other things related to version 1 of Asmodeus, feel free to check the video on the top right of the screen to check out more information about it, or simply look at the description. Things about information related to Asmodeus version 2 will be posted in the description. Now, you should have your Busan gear, overflow core, and 2 modules from Asmodeus 1 or bought from another player. Yes, it can be traded now. It wasn't tradable at the time of the recording. And the Asmodeus trinkets from running the raid 6 times in a row. You need 6 blue seawater total to transcend all 3 trinkets. If you want, you can transcend both the necklace and the ring. Keep the SOP trinket that allows you to use a consumable for the time being as a placeholder. The stones are a guaranteed success, so no need to worry on failing during its process. However, for Asmodeus version 2, it's a different story. Before I go over version 2, I want to explain other things that has released, since that I have yet to go over. If you want to just skip over for Asmodeus version 2 or other parts in this video, feel free to look at the description. There are timestamps listed there. When this dungeon released, I used to think that there was no point in grinding it since, honestly, it seemed too simple to do. It was just an amplifier. However, I was wrong, meaning you actually have to grind for this. Normally, new gear takes a few months to craft. It's taken me about 2 months to do. Anyway, I've shown 2 videos in the past related to this dungeon. Its main purpose is for the amplifier. In order to get it, you simply do damage to each of the bosses that end up spawning one by one, and the materials will drop. The bosses don't usually have a specific order in spawning either. There is normal and hard mode versions of this dungeon. Obviously, you get more materials in the hard mode version, but at the same time, it does not really matter which one you do, because in the end, you'll end up getting a good amount of materials to craft the materials for the amplifier daily. Doing the hard mode of this dungeon is pretty annoying to run, even if you're strong, which is why I definitely don't find it worth doing, especially since I stated earlier, you get enough materials for the week on normal. If you're wondering what exactly to craft, you need to craft something called Trader's Yoke. Which, yes, it's not bank shareable. If it was, most of us would have gotten it a long time ago. You use these to craft the amplifiers of your choice. Also, yes, it says magic on the screenshots, but do not worry. Depending on the character you are logged into, it would show up as physical, magical, or hybrid. Just so you're aware, no, this amplifier does not require to be transcended. When you start tuning this amplifier, the tunings are much better compared to the old amplifier you had earlier, like Busan, that obviously needs to be replaced. This area is simply unlocked after completing Busan missions, and the new area will be called Sintum City. The main reason to unlock this is because of a speed module that will replace your Busan module. You would get 2 bugs every 1 run. And the dungeon would appear twice a day, meaning you'd get 4 bugs daily. These bugs that you need for the module are called Swift Bug Chunk. Those are located in your mission tab of your inventory. You don't need just bugs for this speed module. You also will need these. They are called After Image of Swiftness. And you need 10 bugs for every material you craft for this. These are the materials that are required for the module, which means you need 320 swift bugs total. Once you have this crafted, you'll be replacing your Busan module. Remember that if you wish to transfer over chips that are already overclocked, It's best to save up on chip protectors if you wish to not go through the burden of leveling up your chips all over again. If you want to know how this dungeon is, feel free to check out the link in the description where it shows the gameplay when it released here in Code Closers. There will be a part 2 related to this raid, where it will not only be Gina Grace, but it will also have Jay as a young version of himself. This is yet to be released at the time of this recording. So if it does release, I will make a video on it later on, so stay tuned for that. For this section, this dungeon is unlocked on its own. If you have version 1 unlocked already, you will be given a mission for the raid at Reverse Theater for Asmodeus version 2. This raid is meant for your trinkets that were earned through Asmodeus 1, and they are meant to be transcended another 2 times. To look for where to transcend the item, you go to Reverse Theater, go to the crafting machine, and go to the tab called Corruption Asmodeus. Look for the 2 green stones with the name Shield on them. They're the first 2 things on this list. It is 100% chance when you craft the stones. However, you have a choice whether to craft using elixirs or not using them, which means you'd have to stack up on Symbol of Charities, which are only earned through Asmodeus version 2 raid. When you complete the raid, you will be given those Symbols of Charities, and as well as some other useful materials like the trinkets used to enter the other mini raid that also drops overflow gear, but has a higher chance. Yes, there is another mini raid, but you can actually run it with members this time. I recommend going in with at least 3 to 4 members with blue triggers. This mini raid is called Corruption King's Sanctuary. If you watched my other guide or simply played the game, you should know the mini raid in Asmo 1 drops the overflow gear, but there's something different with Corrupted version. Not only that it has a higher chance to drop the gear, but it also has costume accessories, the armbands, which are the red and black versions of the portraits for the bosses, Asmodeus hair for female and Davy Jones hair for male, and a costume suit which actually sells for 1.5 to 3 billion credits. Now I said a costume suit can drop from this mini dungeon, but also the fact that you can craft it if you don't drop it. It takes a long time to craft, so unfortunately that's if your RNG will turn out against you. Now you would need to replace this with your YOD costume suit that will increase your damage by a ton. The tunings are also completely different and are much better compared to what you had on before as a costume suit. You would have 4 tuning slots, and you would be able to have 2 skill tunings of your choice, depending if you use the specific item that allows you to choose what skill tuning you would use for your character. Asmodeus version 2 is not only for the trinkets, but it's also mainly meant for triggers. You will be replacing your current triggers with the ones you craft in the same tab I mentioned earlier, which is Corrupted Asmodeus. Not only just craft them, when you complete the Asmodeus version 2 raid, press claim after completing, you will have a chance to drop a trigger or simply seawater. Make sure to never discard the seawater, you will need them to craft the triggers itself. Now, most players use black triggers, however it does have a downside since you end up taking a lot more damage against enemies. However, my other character will be using blue triggers, since that was the first one I got from RNG in the box and the stats are decent. Once you craft or get the triggers you want after claiming your reward, you will need to transcend them. The triggers will need to be transcended once. It is not a 100% chance when you craft the first one on the stone on the list called trigger. It is only a chance. And that chance is very low, so I do not recommend it whatsoever by doing it that way. Especially considering Symbol of Charities are already hard to get. If you do not have the item called Transcendental Elixirs, you will need to have 25 trigger stones, which takes up a lot of time as well. If you have at least 30 elixirs each, you will be able to transcend each trigger at 100% chance without costing much of anything, which is why I strongly suggest that in events, it's best to take advantage and craft as many as you can.